Hello folks, my name is Mark and this is Why I Hate the World. How you guys doing? And this is a video about the third presidential debate. I did a reaction video to the first one, but I missed number 2 because I was on vacation, so I figure I should do this last one. And it went the same as basically the first 2 debates went. Trump started out strong, staying on message, and as time wore on, he just sort of like degenerates into a little child, and Hillary Clinton ends up looking like the actual adult in the room. She looks like the responsible one there who can like answer questions rationally and shit. And that seemed to be the pattern that the debate took this whole time. Like basically the guy would ask a question, the moderator would ask a question, Donald Trump would attack Hillary with something that's either bullshit or irrelevant. And then Hillary would counterattack with something that he actually did. And then he would call it a lie when it wasn't a lie, right? It was something that she would counter either with a quote or something that he did or something he tweeted or whatever. She would just pick and choose from any of the umpteenth, million little Donald Trump micro scandals that seem to happen 3 times a week. And then he would deny it and catch himself in a lie. And I'm sure today there's going to be all kinds of videos and newspaper articles and things about saying all the times that Donald Trump lied. That's exactly what happened in debate number 1 and 2. And, for example, he said some shit about like he would blame violence at his rallies on her. So if you remember, there's been, instances of protesters at Donald Trump rallies where things have turned sour, and some people have gotten beaten up, and some of the counter protesters have gotten a little violent as well, and they would they'd be almost riots, right? In fact, I think a couple of them actually were riots in Chicago and stuff. But if you remember before that, there was violence at his rallies, inside the rallies, where they would throw protesters out. He told them to punch them in the face, stuff like that. So it's kind of like he escalated it, like I'm not blaming the violence on Donald Trump, but what I am saying is that he created that, environment, by telling his people to be violent, then people would, then protesters would go ready for it, right? He escalated the violence, and he basically tried to blame it on Hillary Clinton, which is complete and utter bullshit, saying some shit that there's video of Hillary Clinton telling people to be violent at his rallies and to go and disrupt his rallies and stuff. That's complete horseshit. There's no fucking that's like Alex Jones conspiracy theory shit, but he's basically saying that he blamed it on, he blamed his violence at his rallies on Obama and Hillary Clinton. He blamed his sexual harassment charges on her, right? Saying they were false, saying that she's digging people up and that she's coordinating somehow that all these women coming forward, like she invented it or some shit, which is complete bullshit, And he's saying that, these women are either coming forward for fame or because her campaign did it. And it's like Alex, he's getting his information from fucking InfoWars, which is just horseshit. And it's like, it made him look like a child, It's like basically arguing with your 13-year-old little brother who thinks the moon landing isn't real. She kind of countered, with a couple of things back, but I think the best line that he had was when he hit her on the TPP and NAFTA, basically calling it a disaster, and that she would be weak on trade deals, and she was forced to admit that she said that she supported the TPP in the beginning, and apparently she doesn't now, but in real life we all know that she does. Okay, and I think that was his strongest point. And if he just would have stuck with that, and if he would have stuck with populism and jobs and that kind of thing, he would have done much better, and he might have actually convinced some people to vote for him, right? But instead, he can't look past the personal slights, right? And instead he degenerated into stupid conspiracy theory bullshit and ended up looking like a crazy person when this shit was over. Hillary, for her part, basically just had to counter, like I said, with any of the Trump scandals. And she was essentially able to turn it back around on him every single time that he attacked. There were a couple of points where she faltered pretty bad, though. The first one being the TPP. The other one was when the moderator asked her about the pay-to-play question. Right, so having to do with the Clinton Foundation. Right, which is not really true. See, that's the thing. Like when you have Fox News fucking moderating a debate, you know, the moderator says, "Well, we know from these emails that that certain people got special privileges," which they actually really didn't. If you actually read the emails, they didn't. It looks like they tried to, but they ended up not. Right. And so when she kind of faltered on that, instead of what she should have done is just denied it and said the truth. Like, well, there were some instances where it appeared like this, but if you read the emails, you find out that they didn't actually get special treatment, right? Instead, what she decided to counter with was she started talking about all the good that the Clinton Foundation actually does, right? Which is true. The Clinton Foundation does a lot to help AIDS victims in Africa and stuff like that, and rebuilding in Haiti and that kind of thing. And so Donald Trump, like a fucking vampire, sensed this moment of weakness and jumped on her, and says they should give back the money, and jumped on the foundation. And it's like, and I think this is one point where he actually, was a little bit effective, right? I think he planted the seed of doubt, and so he may have planted the seed of doubt in some people's heads out there. But it's just like anything else. It's like if you actually research it, you find out that there's nothing there. But anyway, then he said that you should give back the money from certain, that they get from certain countries like Qatar, stuff like that. I think one of the lines was like, well, if you're accepting money from countries where they treat women horribly, and why don't you give it back, and that kind of thing. But then once again, she turned it around, just like every other time that they attacked, and turned it around and compared his foundation to her foundation, basically compared the Trump Foundation to the Clinton Foundation and said, well, at least ours is like a real fucking charity and yours you're using to buy fucking pictures, paintings of yourself and to pay off your personal lawsuits. And Trump denies it, and then the fucking moderator says it's true, and it's like, there you go. You just fucked up your entire attack once again. And that just seemed to be the following, that just seemed to be the pattern. That shit just happened over and over and over. Every time he would attack her, she would turn it around, and then he would deny it. He denied mocking a disabled reporter. I don't know if you remember that, where he was doing all this shit, right? He denied fucking, he compared his experience to hers, right? And she turned around and said, well, while you were fucking dancing in disco parlors and shit, I was doing this XYZ. I was helping children in the 80s while you were when you were on fucking Celebrity Apprentice, I was in the Situation Room hunting Osama bin Laden. So it's there's no comparison, right? And so I don't know. It was just it was by the end of it, it wasn't even funny. It was just sort of okay, this guy over here has no clue what the fuck he's talking about. And how you could tell. All right, so there's a line that he used 3 or 4 times, and he used it in the first and second debates too, where when his tax returns would come up or something, he would say, well, we took advantage of the laws that exist. And if you don't like those laws, how come you didn't do anything? How come you didn't change them? You've had 30 years to change them, right? That line is retarded. It's fucking dumb. It's as a senator, you don't run the government, okay? First off, tax legislation is introduced in the House, right? Not the Senate. So that's she couldn't even introduce a bill to fucking change that shit in the first place. Secondly, just because you're in the Senate doesn't mean that you get to dictate what gets passed and what doesn't, right? You can vote for things that come across. You can introduce legislation, but if they don't get picked up by the House, right, then it doesn't get picked up. It might get filibustered. So it's retarded. It's absolutely retarded, It says the same thing about ISIS. It's well, you were the Secretary of State. How come you didn't stop them? Because she's the fucking, she's not in charge of the military. She wasn't the president, okay? She fucking enacts policy, all right? She doesn't create policy. See, that's what these fucking, that's why that shit doesn't make any sense. It's like, you know, Jesus Christ, man, that's so fucking dumb. That line was just like, and he did it like 3 times, and it's like, it just makes him look stupid and stupid and stupid. I don't know, like, it seemed like, you know, by the end, you know, as time wore on, he just began to, like, he started doing that wrong thing again, where he goes, wrong, like, you know, like when they said, oh, you know, you mocked that disabled reporter, and he goes, wrong, you know, it's like, you know, whenever he says that shit, it's like, that's actually what really happened. But I think the funniest part, though, the best part of this entire thing was when the question came up of Trump's recent sexual harassment scandal, which I'm sure you're all aware of, right? And he said something to the effect of, nobody has more respect for women than me. And people in the audience started laughing. Okay, like what he said, he goes, listen, with his finger, and he goes, nobody has more respect for women than me. And everyone just starts busting up. And the moderator had to turn around and tell the audience to shut up, right? That shit should be in a fucking ad. I mean, if they don't take that section and put it in an ad, right, then, I don't know. It was just like, it's just fucking ridiculous. Like, he basically just, you know, it was basically a repeat of 1 and 2, just a little less insane, you know. I will say that Trump had a little bit of a better performance, you know. He came off as less of an insane person. I didn't notice the sniffing as much, although it was there in the beginning, you know, right. By the end, it didn't seem like to me that he was sniffing every 5 seconds. I don't know. Maybe like he really wasn't on drugs this time or something. But it just seemed like it was desperate. That's what it was. It was like, he's desperate. He's throwing everything he can throw at her to see what sticks, right? And what he should be doing is trying to, you know, build his base. I mean, in fact, it's too late. I think it's way too late. You know, he should have been like, he has the base, right? He has that, you know, those people that voted for him in the primaries, and then a couple, you know, then the greater Republican base that votes Republican every time. That's not enough people to win. You know, we already know that. Mitt Romney didn't win with that. Okay, John McCain didn't win with that. It's not enough people. Just that crazy Republican base, the Sarah Palin types, the Tea Party types. That shit is not enough. Thank God it isn't. You know, if you want to win Republicans, you need someone that appeals to the broader American electorate, right? And the broader American electorate isn't crazy, you know, right? They actually like things that their candidate says to be true. They like their candidate to not be a child, all right? To not be a, you know, basically that's what Trump is. Trump is like Sarah Palin, you know, a male Sarah Palin, but more insane and more arrogant. You know, in fact, there was a part in here because he like you know, of course, because Trump interrupts Hillary like every 5 seconds. And there's one part where he like, you know, she tried to interrupt him and he goes like very arrogantly, excuse me, my turn to talk. And it's like, fuck you, man. Like, because that's what was my reaction watching this. Like, after he interrupts her like 17 times, then she interrupts him, and then he's like, excuse me, it's my turn to talk. It's like, dude, fucking go fuck yourself, man. That's how I felt coming out of the end of this debate, you know, because I don't know, and I hope other people out there who actually pay attention to this shit, to this kind of thing, feel the same way. Like, it's like when you know the facts, you can see right through the bullshit that he's slinging, you know. So anyway, it was a farce, and I'm very happy that, you know, I don't know, I'm very happy this election's almost over, and I think it's going to be with a little bit of, you know, no personal satisfaction when I wake up the day after election day to see Trump go down in flames. Because, and I hope he brings the entire Republican Party down with him, because they need to die. Okay, the Republican Party needs to be destroyed, right? Because they did it to themselves. And, you know, I've said this before in videos, I am not adverse to voting Republican, right? But they need to run somebody worth voting for, okay? And the last 3 election cycles, you know, they haven't given me someone who even is like a decent person. So, anyway, adios, folks.